Hello and welcome to 5 Minute Math. Today we are looking at representing equivalent fractions. This is 3.3F Readiness Practice, the Proficient version. If you're interested in looking at the intermediate or advanced versions for 3.3F or any other readiness practice resource, you can do so by using the link in the video description. So our first question talks about Sarah and a delicious chocolate bar she wants to share with her friends. So she wants to share her chocolate bar with two friends. What fraction of the bar will each person get? Well, let's first draw what we see here. So I've got Sarah, and then she's got two friends. It says she's going to share it with her two friends. So let's make this friend number one, and then let's make this friend number two. So even though it says the word two in the problem, there are three people. That's our first trick that we need to keep up with. There are actually three people splitting this. This is going to be Sarah and then her two friends. And so we need to make sure that we're using our fractional number of 3 rather than just the 2 that they give us. And so we need to draw a model and a number line to represent what fraction each of the bar each person will get, and then write the amount as two equivalent fractions. Okay, so let's first draw our chocolate bar. All right, so if there are 3 people, we're going to draw thirds. And so that is when you have to just kind of eyeball and as close as you can, try to get each portion to be the same. And so I'm just going to say 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. That is our model. And your model might be different, so I'm going to put this down at the bottom. Models may vary. I chose to do a rectangle because that's close to an actual chocolate bar. You might choose to do a different model, but as long as we're showing one whole broken up into 3 parts, we're good. We can also use this as kind of our guide for a number line. So that's the nice thing about using this rectangular model is we can use that as kind of our where our lines go. And so we can say that 0, that's 1/3, it's 2/3, and we can say that's 1 whole or 3/3. So either one works. And so we need to write the amount that each person will get as two equivalent fractions. I will go ahead and just put it as a sentence as well. Never hurts to just say in sentence what you're doing. So each person will get 1/3 of the bar. Now I need to write two equivalent fractions. And so how can I change my 1/3? There's a few different ways that we can do this pretty simply. One way would be to, watch this, I'm going to split each 1/3 in half. Now, what do I have? Well, I'm going to have 6 pieces now. Now each person got 1/3, and so that ends up being split in half into 2/6. I can also do it like this: 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, and then 6/6. So I could say, using this right here, I could say this is going to kind of equal that 1/3. So there I could say 1/3 equals or is equivalent to 2/6. Now that's not the only equivalent fraction of 1/3, but that is probably the simplest one for us to access as well. So I will also say equivalent fractions may vary because there are more ways to show fractions equal to 1/3. But that is at least one version of an answer that we can use to satisfy the question for number 1. Let's look at our second practice problem. We have Lakeisha here has a pizza cut into 8 equal slices. All right, so let's assume it's a circular pizza. All right, so I'm going to make it look like this. cut it in half, cut each half in half to make fourths, and then if you cut each fourth in half, you get eighths. Now let's assume those are all equal pieces, okay? She eats 2 slices. All right, so she's going to eat this slice, and then she's going to eat this slice. Thomas has a pizza that's the same size as Lily's, but cut into 4 equal slices. All right, so let's see if we can make another pizza. Try to make it as large. And since I've got 2 different pizza, let's go ahead and label these. That's Lakeisha's pizza. This is Thomas's pizza. Has a pizza the same size but cut into 4 equal slices. Well, whenever I do fourths, I always do it like this. Half, half of a half. Okay? And then Thomas eats an equivalent portion of pizza. Draw a model and a number line to show how much Thomas ate. Well, you notice how in Lakeisha, I had this top left corner. Watch what I can do here. Hopefully you can visually see it right here. That's that same thing right there. And so I can say Lakeisha has 2/8. Thomas has 1/4. Because really, watch, all I need to do is this. And now I made my 1/4 into 2/8. So that's another way you can check to make sure they're equivalent. Now I need to draw a model, which I did, and a number line. All right, so let's do the same thing we did earlier. I'm going to draw this. And remember, your model might be different than mine, so I will say models may vary. All right, so if that's my 0 and that's my whole, let's start with a half. And then let's go half of a half, because half of each half is a fourth. So that's 1/4. That's 2/4 also. So 1/2 and 2/4 are equivalent. That's 3/4. All right, so Lakeisha ate right there. There's that 1/4. Okay? But how can we show, or that's what Thomas ate, is that 1/4. How can we show that's equivalent to the 2/8? Well, what I want to do is I want to cut each fourth in half. And look what I get. I get 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8. So 4/8 is equal to 1/2 and 2/4. 5/8, 6/8, 7/8. And then at the end, they're all going to be 1. So here is my answer in a number line form. 2/8 is equivalent to 1/4. All right, for our third one, it says draw a number line and a pictorial model showing 3/4 and at least one other equivalent fraction. Okay, so let's start with the number line. And let's do 3/4. All right, and we'll just do what we did before. So since I'm going to fourths, I know that fourths is when I take a half, and then I take a half of each half. That's just something we need to remember. That's 1/4. I'm going to say that 1/2 is also 2/4. Then I've got my 3/4. So here's my 3/4. How can I show at least one other equivalent fraction? Well, let's do this. Instead of just doing a half of a half, which we could, right? Let's take each of these. Let's do something different this time. Let's take each of these fourths and break it up into 3 equal parts. Now, it's going to be a smaller fractional pieces with a larger denominator, but you notice I'm not changing where the dot is. I'm just changing how each fractional part is broken up. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've got twelfths now. So that's 1/12, 2/12. So my 1/4 is equal to 3/12, 4/12, 5/12. Now this should make sense to you. 6/12 is equal to 1/2, because 6 is half of 12. And so when 6 is half of 12, when your numerator is half of your denominator, it's equal to 1 half. 7 twelfths, 8 twelfths. All right, so that's what I was looking for, that 9 twelfths. So 9 twelfths is equivalent to 3 fourths. Okay, so I can say 9 twelfths is equivalent to 3 fourths. All right, so how do I draw that as a pictorial model? Well, let's draw a rectangle. Let's do that. Let's first start with our 3 fourths. So I'm going to do vertical lines here. Okay, so I'm just going to shade this in here. So that's 1 fourth. This is 2 fourths. And this is 3 fourths. Now remember on my number line, what I did is I took each fourth and I cut into 3 equal parts. Well, that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to draw a horizontal line there, draw a horizontal line there, and look what I've got. I've got 12 parts, 9 of them are shaded in. And so that is a model way to show the equivalent. So I'm going to say models may vary, and also you don't have to select 9 twelfths. You probably either chose or were thinking about 6 eighths. And if you did 6 eighths, that also works. So if you have any further desire to work with 3.3F, you could do so by looking for various options for the advanced level and the intermediate level of this readiness practice using the link in the description. And all other readiness practice can also be found using that same link.